Hello and welcome to Oakville Matters. This is the program, thanks to your TV, where we get to delve into the things that matter to Oakville residents. And customer service and the quality of the town's offerings surely matters to Oakville residents. I know because we hear about it, both good and bad, all the time. And joining us today to discuss the state of that offering is Neil Huddlestone from the Glen Abbey area, a figure who came to prominence in the Save Glen Abbey campaign, and George Niblock, who is, in addition to an outstanding agent at Royal LePage, part of their real estate team, he's also one of the leaders of the Lakeside Residents Association, the Oakville OLRA, Oakville Lakeside Residents Associations, and Julie Clarke, who runs strategy and communications for the town. And Julie, you get to tell the good news that you've done a survey, as you do every 2 years or so, and I gather we did pretty well. What can you share with us?
So we did. I'll explain a little bit about the survey to start. It is our 9th survey that we've conducted over the past 20 years. And the survey is a sampling of 811 randomly selected residents to go through a telephone interview that lasted approximately 27 minutes. So it was a fairly in-depth dive into our questions. And it was a mix of our cell phone and our landlines, and is weighted to match the demographics of our town, which is very important. And that survey was also supplemented with an online survey where people self-selected to give us some feedback, and we had 990 responses for that. And we do it to really give us some information on feedback on our services and our programs, to identify any emerging issues, and to help us with our priority setting. So when you look at the results, I'm going to refer to them. Across the board, we did quite well. And so I'm going to highlight just a few points. We had 80% of overall satisfaction with the government of the town of Oakville. 93% of our respondents were satisfied with our town services, which is extremely high, 9 points higher than the benchmark that we compare to. And 85% said that they received good value for their tax dollars. And actually, I'll share one more. 85% also said that they had overall customer satisfaction with their most recent interaction with an employee of the town. So looking broadly at satisfaction numbers, the town has done very well and continues to do well with this latest survey.
Well, I know I took survey science in graduate school at Columbia University, and I'm persuaded by the dimensions and the methodology that you described that this is a valid survey. And we do it all the time, like every couple of years. So, and the main purpose for council, I have to say, is to try to identify where we need to make improvements. And one of the reasons I'm happy to have Neil and George with us today is as leaders of residence groups. They participate from time to time in the Community Leaders Roundtable every month, where we get that kind of feedback all the time. Neil and George, do your perceptions match what Julie described from the survey at this high level?
I'll jump in. I'll say absolutely. You know, this is one of the reasons why we see so many people wanting to move to Oakville. You know, and I think the feeling is with the sort of amenities that we have with the lake and our downtown and livability, this is the place you want to be.
Okay. And Neil, I guess coming off of the successful battle to save Glen Abbey, you probably also like the way the town can fight and win for its citizens. So I'm certainly proud of that myself. But in your neighborhood and among your friends, Is there a perception that we're on the right track?
Absolutely. The overall feeling is a good feeling about this town. Of course, human nature is such that people still want more, and that's why you'll have jobs for life. People will be requesting more. It's sort of interesting that the culture of the town and the culture of the municipality are somewhat similar. I was once in a conversation with a new company, and I said, "Describe what your culture is like." And they said, "Well, if we played a hockey game and we won 7 goals to 1. After the game, we wouldn't spend any time celebrating. We'd be looking into why we let a goal in." And I think that's the culture that the town has. Yes, we're doing great, but we can do better. And that's what's encouraging from the results, and the fact that you're having these kind of sessions and digging into so what's next.
Yeah, I mean, we have information that overall satisfaction with local municipal governments has dropped everywhere else to like 55%, and we're at 80. So, on the one hand, you want to, a natural human instinct to pat yourself on the back, but there's another instinct that goes, well, how can I get those other 20 points? So that's one of the things that I hope we'll talk about later on in the show here. Julie, what use does the staff make of this survey when it gets into the individual? I mean, you do ask people about individual services, and then we start to see a ladder of success and failure, if I can call it that. Anyway, good and not as good, if that's gentler. Talk to us about how we use this, or how you on staff use this.
So this is used quite a bit at the staff level. Each department is given the results and are expected to go through the results in a fair amount of detail, including the ward results, which is a further breakdown. And really looking for, as you said, Mr. Mayor, what are we doing well? And the satisfaction is 2 components. There's the highly satisfied and the satisfied. How do we move into the more highly satisfied? What areas are not doing as well, and what can we do to improve that? So we strongly encourage all departments to really look through this data and then think about what changes they need to make in terms of their prioritization. Emerging issues are a big one. Anything coming out of the survey that may be unexpected. And as we go into our budget process, it's looking to see what we're going to prioritize. And of course, for council next year, this will feed heavily into the next version of council's strategic plan for the next 4 years. So it's a bit in our planning and our review.
So that should drive their budgets every year as well, just as it has for the last 16 years. Well, when I became mayor 16 years ago, we kicked off with a big business strategic plan effort. Took months and months. Council had extensive meetings and workshops, and we had noted professors from business schools coming in to tell us, every company that has a lot of services has stars and dogs, he called them. He said, there's and he had access to our survey data. He said, you've got a star in the public library, and you've got a dog in your transit system. And every year you give the library more money for being a star, and it doesn't get any more popular. It's like as popular as you can get. And every year you starve your transit system. And guess what? It doesn't get better. And that's not a business-like approach. Council proceeded to double the transit system, really invested heavily in it to shift from a in and out of the GO station scheme into a crosstown and uptown, a grid system, as they call it. And we've worked hard to keep up with the GO system, but I don't think its place in the rankings has changed. It's still near the bottom, isn't it?
Transit does remain the area that can have the most improvement, yes.
So if that kind of gets me to one of the concerns that you always have to have when you look at these results, which is there's a set of people who use transit and a much bigger set that never use transit in my perception. And we're asking everybody what they think of it. Sometimes if you ask somebody what they think of transit and they tell you they hate it, it means they don't think we should be spending money on it, as opposed to it's not good enough. And if you're a rider, some routes you can get a bus every few minutes, but many routes it's an hour or whatever between buses. And I do hear from people who want buses constantly everywhere. Then comes budget time and council goes, well, we can't afford that. And oh yeah, nobody wants to pay the full cost of a bus ride. So whatever are we going to do about this? What's your strategic solution?
So to get more detail, if we wanted to really understand the transit, that would be a special survey of its own. And most of the, as you've mentioned, Mr. Mayor, most of the concerns typically when you look at other transit services and surveys they've done, it tends to be frequency of the ride and the routes. So I will say we are continuing to look at our what I would call the route rationalization and using data to help us better understand the movement patterns of our community. And so, for example, we are doing a pilot right now with how people get from their home to the Oakville GO station. And in reviewing that data, we're hoping to find out if there's changes we can make that would encourage more people to use our transit. And so expanding those types of pilots and learning from them and using data to figure out how people move through the town using new kind of data sources will feed into our service plans for the future. So well, there's a bit of work going on there.
Yeah, I'm proud of the way the town has, under the pressure perhaps of the pandemic, but nevertheless, shifted to the digitization of everything. We've got data now. We've got data I don't know if anybody wants. We've got so much data. But for example, we have a transit on demand pilot, right? And it'd be interesting to know in a future survey how people compare that to the regular service. And when I looked at this survey, it didn't seem to pick up any notice or comment on that, but that tells us something. Mm-hmm. Neil, what about you? You live in an area where there's a lot of people going to the GO station to go in, or traditionally there have been, and I predict there will be again. But Glen Abbey's been a heavy user of the GO system, and there's only a limited number of parking spaces there, so people take the bus. Julie, it's like, I don't know, 12,000 boardings a year or something, or a day. Give us the dimensions of our bus traffic. It's like 10 or 12,000 rides a day in and out of the GO station, as I understand it. So that's pretty heavy use. Now that's an old figure that the previous transit director gave me, but 10, 12,000.
I'm not sure of what the actual number is, but it is fairly significant.
So anyway, they don't all come from Glen Abbey, but I've observed that Glen Abbey sends a lot of people down to the GO station. Neil, what's your neighbors and your associates' take on the transit system? Or is their solution just more of it more often?
Well, it would be nice to say there's a solution. I see myself, just on a personal observation basis, there are people certainly using the buses, but to be honest with you, I never see full buses. And that always concerns me. I think that, they need to be more full. They need to be better utilized. Mass of people, as everybody knows, come out of Glen Abbey or going into Glen Abbey by their own vehicles. And that's one of the challenges for any changes in development here. But it seems to me that a transit on demand system might work very well, matched with some way to balance the volume. I don't know if there's a better way to use smaller buses or mini buses or that sort of thing, as the other cities use in different circumstances. Overall, I'm sorry, please continue.
I was going to say, yes, we have a variety of bus sizes in our fleet, and the
Right.
Transit on Demand pilot does use small vehicles. So you're spot on there. Go ahead.
No, that to me is something I've seen in other cities, whereby you balance it. As I say, it's a shame that we do have a lot of these buses that don't seem to be fully occupied. Maybe they are at times of the day that I personally don't see them.
Yes, let's go with that, and maybe someday they will be, but yeah, you know, a survey could record dissatisfaction with the transit service from that perspective of, oh, I hate the empty buses because it looks like a waste kind of thing. So let's turn to a possibly more tractable, easier to improve service. What stood out to you, Julie, in terms of what we should be focusing on?
The one that jumped out for me was the online services, which we have been spending a tremendous amount of time on over the last few years, combined with, while most people expressed ease and satisfaction with our website, linking earlier to our comment about always wanting to do better, there were a significant minority that had trouble finding what they need. And so that confirmed for us.
I'm one of those.
That confirmed for us that we are indeed on the right direction when it comes to our online services and our website, because we are launching a new website for early 2023 with a new content management system with the aim of making things much easier for our residents and users to find. And the online services that we've been doing to date and trying to move as much as we can online to make it easier for our residents is key. And so to see that it was just popped into the area for improvement, just barely got in there. I am hoping the next survey, we're going to see that move out of that area based on all the work we've been doing to date.
So George, in the real estate business, do you have a need to, I mean, do you interact with the town when you're buying and selling properties for people?
Constantly checking what the taxes are on properties. I'm also looking up zoning on the town site a lot. I find that pretty straightforward because I'm used to doing it, and I'm used to reading them. You know, I'm not sure that that's for your average consumer to go on and figure out the zoning for their property, though.
Well, maybe the average viewer, maybe people watching us don't know that you can look up your zoning and that other people can look up your taxes, I guess. So,
Yeah.
Yay, digital future. What else have you picked out of the pack, Julie, to recommend to council for further work?
Beyond transit and online services were the two areas of service that required the most improvement. The other area that really, when I spoke earlier about emerging issues, that really jumped out of the gate compared to previous surveys was the affordable housing. So key priority there, and the town is looking at where we can play in that space. And there will be some information coming to council over the next few months on that piece. But the big jump this year was the affordable housing.
So, George, you're in the housing business, I could say, can't I?
Absolutely.
When housing is unaffordable, I assume that means nobody's buying. If you know, like, navigate that affordability question for us there.
Yeah, you might think so, but I think what it means is there's high demand, and I think this is market driven. It's a supply and demand issue, and so the prices rise, and we've seen that this year. We've seen them start to soften a little bit as they implement slightly higher interest rates is starting to creep up. And so, the market has responded to that. Some people have taken a little bit of a wait and see attitude to the market. Maybe it will go down, maybe it won't. But nobody wants to overpay for anything. I think what we're anticipating is the supply issue is not really going away. And so prices will remain fairly constant going forward. And, so people have good investments here in town. And typically in Oakville, we've been a little bit immune to big drops in the market compared to other places, as people tend to hold out. They've made good investments and they ride through the lower bits until the market sort of comes back a little bit.
Well, I know as soon as the interest rates got hiked, the headlines began about average prices in select markets falling as much as 20%. And I remember asking other of your colleagues, how's Oakville doing? And they were giving the same feedback you did, that it's not dipping, but not climbing, wait and see kind of thing. As a trained economist, my theory is that if somebody's buying, it's affordable. Sort of by definition, if somebody can pay it, it was affordable for them. There's a lot of money out there chasing this real estate.
Well, I think one of the things is, when people talk about it not being affordable, there is a specific group of people that a lot of them are referring to, and it's the millennials trying to buy into their first places, their first houses. And it's a large cohort. We have to realize that, there were the baby boomers, the biggest age cohort ever to come along, and now their children are all leaving home. So I heard a great example recently where it was actually the CEO of Royal LePage. It's his family. They have 4 kids, and at the beginning of the pandemic, everybody lived at home, and as the pandemic sort of waned, everybody wanted to leave and get their own houses. So now that family of 6 with 1 house now needs 5 houses. And so that doesn't have anything to do with immigration or, anything else. Our demographics are shifting, and, people want to stay in their houses longer. The baby boomers want to stay. They're capable of staying in their houses longer. They want to keep them. And the millennials are coming along. So it's tough for them. But I always say, every age group did have to go through that feeling of, oh, I'm never going to be able to afford a house in the neighborhood I grew up in. But you start at the bottom and you kind of work your way up. You rent a place, then you buy whatever you can afford to buy. It's an apartment or whatever it is. And you get on that property ladder and you start sort of working your way along.
I know a lot of people who've done that through their lives. I've come to think of it as an Oakville way of life almost. Just for interest, what ages do we mean when we talk about millennials?
Oh gosh, I'm not going to get that exactly right, but I think we're we're talking about late 20s to mid to late 30s are the millennials in terms of.
Well, gee, I have some of those.
Yep. There are lots of them around.
So
they have all the answers, by the way.
Yeah. Well, yes. I've been actually from time to time grateful to my kids for having the answers. They've actually often steered me right. So there is that. All right, so it's onward and upward for the town of Oakville, living and learning from our biannual survey results. And Julie, we've got only a couple of minutes left. Is there another one of our services that stands out to you as, I mean, I heaped praise on the library already. How did fire do? I'm just guessing wildly here that they might have been well liked.
Oh, our emergency services do tend to be well liked. I will, though, give a shout out to there were 3 services that got a lot of love from the community, and they were our parks and trails. Our amazing trail system got extremely high remarks, and our harbor and waterfront was the other one, which I think you can claim is pandemic related. It drove a lot of people out into the community to experience what Oakville has to offer, and the waterfront and harbors benefited from that. And the third one was the public library system, which continues to get high marks.
Well, I know that people enjoy the fact that we're the safest community in the country, and that includes fire safety. This town has traditionally invested heavily in fire safety and in training, so it's good to be in Oakville, where the properties don't fall; they only take a pause. To quote George. You know, there was a crash in '89 in Toronto. Property fell half overnight, and I was told by my friends in Oakville, "Oh, it just paused for a little while here."
Yeah.
And I thought, wow, this is a special place. Camelot, perhaps, or maybe Brigadoon. I'm never sure. Neil, thank you for joining us, and George and Julie. Really appreciate the time that you took to brag about our high marks in the citizen survey. And I thank you for watching and being a resident of Oakville. Please let me know, mayor@oakville.ca, anytime you need help or you have an idea to improve our livability. Thanks for being with us. See you next time.